Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everybody. Whenever you are watching this, I don't know about y'all, but it's been somewhat of a week for me. So that's how I'm going to start this episode off. It has been a very interesting week. Um, yeah, it has. So, welcome back to Co-Parenting with Dr. Jerry. If you have been rocking with me for a while, you already know what we do here. I am here to help empower parents to navigate the complexities of co-parenting with clarity, compassion, and with collaboration, ensuring a nurturing environment that centers on the well-being of the child above all else. It's hard for me even to get that out today, y'all. Even though that's what I really want to do. But I'm going to start off today telling you a little bit about what's going on with me. Everybody knows that if you watch the last couple of episodes, that I am going in a transition of rebranding. So this common sense co-parenting behind me, I don't know which side it's on for you, but it's going to go to co-parenting with Dr. Jerry. So I'm learning business things right now in the midst of co-parenting, of course, my adult daughter, who is getting ready to go to graduate school. So she is moving from one city to another, all while I am getting myself to move from one country to another. So there's a lot going on, y'all. There is a lot going on. But this podcast gives me a way to share my expertise, I guess, or my experiences in the world of co-parenting because my daughter is now 23 years old, about to go to graduate school, and her father and I, my ex-husband, have been co-parenting since she was 8 months old. So if you've been watching my show, you know what it is. This is the real stuff going on in co-parenting right now for me. And it is not an Instagram version of anything. This is real stuff, real life, every day. Okay. So that's what I'm dealing with right now. But I just wanted to start off the show with a welcome and let you know that you are not alone. Whatever is going on in your life today, whoo, Lord, I am there with you. I am there with you, and you are not by yourself. So let's get the party started. So tonight we are talking about what almost every co-parent deals with at some point. Okay. The topic is house rules. When two homes mean two different standards. So when your child is going between two homes, that could mean that both parents have different standards for what goes on in their homes, right? So we have parents that are upset because one parent is too lax, as they would say, like they don't make the child do what they need to do. And one parent is more structured or strict, as another parent may say. But let's be honest. If you have two homes, both of those homes might feel like two completely different worlds for your child. And you don't know what's happening in your co-parent's home. Maybe the bedtime is 8:30 with you, but in the other house, the bedtime is whenever, you know, Netflix or something asks that question, are you still watching? Maybe speaking from I'm speaking from experience, y'all. This is not just, made up. Maybe in one house, the homework is done, like before anything else happens. My daughter used to get a snack, come in the house, get a snack, use the bathroom, do whatever, get a snack, sit down, do homework. That was what was done first before anything else happened. That didn't necessarily happen in her other home all the time, from what I was told. Okay. So it might not get, the homework might not get done till right before bed or not at all. Maybe in one home, my daughter didn't necessarily have chores, but she knew she had a list of things that she needed to do on the weekends. A list of things that she may needed to do when she got home from school and things like that. But in one house, maybe they have chores that they might get paid for, maybe they get an allowance for or whatever. In another home, maybe the biggest chore is just them picking up the game or the TV remote. So I often have parents ask me like, how do I how do I do this? Because this is crazy. Like, is it confusing? They're asking me, is it confusing for the kids? And a lot of you guys don't understand, a lot of teachers get these types of questions because teachers typically have very structured classrooms. Schools are very time bound and scheduled, so students don't have a choice but to go with the schedule and go with the times that they get to move and stuff like that, right? So it didn't just come to me as a like talking to people now doing the parenting coaching or what have you, but it came to me as teacher, as a principal, all of that. So, and a lot of parents think that they're being too strict because the other person is so what they call lax. They just don't care. They think the other parent doesn't care. But actually, when you look back at how that parent behaved, maybe when they were with you, or you were in relationship, or you may have been living together, you will find that that's just the way that they live their life. And you accepted that because they were another adult. But now that they are another adult raising a child, it's a totally different thing, and you're upset about it. But today we're going to talk about why different houses have different rules. Why does that happen? And one of the reasons is because that's just how that person grew up. But when does it become a real problem? Kind of like what actually matters for kids. And then how can co-parents handle this without turning it into like a whole thing? Like somebody crashing out on somebody, like a whole world war or whatever. Because the truth that I want to start with is that different homes do not mean chaotic homes. Just because the child has a different environment in each home doesn't mean that it's chaotic. Like my daughter was on here and she specifically told you guys that she felt like she was in two totally different environments when she went from my house to my ex-husband's house. So she had to learn how to adapt to that. Now that could be a good thing or that could be a bad thing, but this requires intentional parenting when they are in two homes. When they are in one home, you are still co-parenting and you will still have problems if you all do not, if you're not intentional about rules, chores, the structures, the processes, the procedures that you have within your family. The family literally becomes the business. Okay. You have to have a structure and a framework. This is why we talk about strategies and we talk about actions, because you need that framework and you need those actions within that you're helping to make the framework, to help the framework work. All right. So let's get into it. The reality of two homes needs to be normalized. So for us as co-parents. So let's normalize this a little bit. Different homes will almost always have different rules. Even if you go from, your house to grandparents' house, your house from aunt uncle's house, to aunt uncle's house. Different homes, period, will almost always have different rules. Now, even in married households, as I was saying, parents don't do the same thing the same way. They don't do everything the same way. Now, imagine you have two separate homes, two different personalities, two different lifestyles, schedules, partners that may be involved. Okay? Of course, the rules are going to look different. And as I said before, one parent may be structured, may be real organized, may have a lot of routines. That was me. I'm literally probably like OCD-ish with the systems and the processes and all of that. But it also is a superpower for me, especially in my profession. So the other parent, though, maybe a flexible, like go with the flow, like less rigid type of. And what's so funny is I'm attracted to those types of people. Like even the teachers that I, supervised or had the privilege of actually leading. I love the flexibility and the go with the flow, and they were less rigid. And typically in a classroom, that's how I was. But as a principal, I had to be a lot more structured. I got more people that that I was responsible for, safety and everything, safety, learning, all of that. So in a classroom with my own kids, I could be a lot more flexible. But if the other parent is more flexible and you're the more rigid, or you're the more rigid, flexible and they're the more rigid, neither one is automatically wrong. That's just the way we're made. Everybody is different. Okay. And kids are actually very capable of adapting to different environments. Think about it. They already adjust to school rules versus home rules, like papa and granny rules at their house, camp rules. They go to sports teams, they got rules and structure and all of that. Kids understand the context, like they get it. The real issue is not that the rules are different. That's not the real issue. The real issue is when the differences create stress for them. The real issue is when the differences create conflict. Or the big thing is when it creates instability for the child. So they are capable of adapting, but if the adaptation feels very unstable, like the adaptation is taking place every day, all day, something different is happening, then that's where co-parents need to pay attention. You need to pay attention when you see your child stressed, and you know your child, so you know when they're stressed. You need to pay attention when it's constant conflict with you and the other co-parent, and it's causing your child stress. You need to pay attention when it's causing your child instability in their life on a daily basis, and you may start seeing some behavior issues come out and things like that because they don't know what's coming. They don't have that predictability anymore. That's when you need to pay attention. Now, different doesn't equal dysfunctional. Okay? Dysfunctional is a totally different thing. But sometimes it does become a problem. Dysfunctional is like a chronic, that's an issue. Like it's dysfunctional, it's creating that stress, it's creating reactions in your child. It is conflict constantly. That's dysfunctional. But sometimes the different does become a problem. So let's talk about like 3 situations. And this is just a few because there's a whole lot. A whole lot. These are just the few that I normally see. Okay. So 3 situations where like house rules can become harmful. One is when one parent undermines the other. Do you know what that means? Okay. Let me give you an example. One of the biggest issues is parents undermining what the other parent says. That means that the child says, Mama said I can't have a phone after 9 o'clock. I can't take my phone in the bedroom, right? The other parent just says, well, that's stupid. You can use your phone here whenever you want to. You can take your phone in the bedroom. You know, that's undermining what the other parent is saying. Yes, it's your house. Yes, you can do what you want to do. That's fine. However, if you know that's a rule at the other parent's house, it's best to be consistent. That's one of our 5 C's in my co-parenting characteristics, right? Effective co-parenting characteristics. It's best to be consistent with that rule if it's a rule that's at the other house. Okay. Another thing, well, your dad is too strict, you know, because your dad doesn't let you do X, Y, and Z. Or your mom is crazy. We hear that all the time as women. People always want to go to the crazy for women. I don't know why, because you got men out here that's just as crazy, number one. And number two, the minute that you call somebody crazy, yes, you're going to see the crazy. They're going to let you see it. So you know what it looks like versus what they actually were giving you. I can be calm, but somebody call me crazy. Yeah, I might let you see crazy. I mean, I'm just saying. So, nevertheless, now the child at this time, when you undermine the other parent, is not just navigating 2 homes. You just put something else on them. Okay. Now they're trying to navigate competing like authority systems. Same thing when they go to school. When you arguing with teachers or you arguing with the principal or you did trying to tell them, now they're navigating competing authority systems. If you cannot align with what the school is asking them to do, and sometimes it may be crazy, I don't know, but if it makes sense, it's sensible, and this is what most schools are doing, and they're asking you to do something, align with it so the child knows that you're aligned with what the school is asking you to do. For example, just walking down the hallway quietly, not running down the hallway, not screaming in the hallway, not running down the hallway, hitting people. That's not acceptable. You're in a school. So when you put the children in a position where they are navigating 2 competing authority systems, kids start to learn that rules are negotiable based on the environment. And that is not true in every environment. Okay? So it creates manipulation in certain children. They learn how to manipulate people. It creates confusion in certain children because they're like, what do I do? Who do I listen to? Who do I not listen to? My mom don't like teachers, so should I listen to the teacher? My daddy don't, like my aunt, so should I listen to my aunt? Like, you're making the child conflicted within their brain as to who do I listen to when these people are trying to help. And I'm saying this is if they're trying to help in a positive way. If people are doing wrong and they're not treating your child right, I'm the biggest advocate for parents. When something is not right, then it's not right. We need to own that. However, we have many instances where parents are putting children right in this position of trying to figure out and navigate authority systems. Rules are not negotiable when you're a child. The rules are the rules. When you're an adult and you can take the consequences of those decisions a little bit better because you've navigated certain things, then maybe they might be negotiable to you, but in certain environments, no. Rules are still not negotiable to you as an adult. So do not put your children in a position where you are undermining the other co-parent, because this is what this causes in them. Okay? So that was the first one. That's what happens between the two households, and this is when it becomes a problem. Number one was when you undermine the other parent. So number two is when kids become the messenger between you and the other co-parent. This should never happen. Never happen. Okay? Now, you can say, tell your mama I said happy birthday when I drop you off. Tell your daddy happy Father's Day when I drop you off. Yeah, that's fine. That is positive. There's nothing wrong with that. But what I'm saying about kids becoming messengers happens all the time. So a child, let me give you an example. I always try to give examples now. A child says, Dad, you shouldn't make me do chores because I don't do them at my mama's house. My mom said I don't have to listen to that here. Now the child is stuck in the middle of adult communication. Why? When the adults could talk about it. This is emotional pressure that kids should never carry. Children should never be responsible for translating parent comments, philosophies, whatever they believe in between homes. That's an adult conversation. Kids should not be having that conversation. That should not be on them. Once again, when you put a child in the middle of adult communication, that is emotional, mental pressure on them that they cannot handle. Okay? Whether you say, well, I could tell them whatever, they could tell their daddy, I don't care, da, 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 da. Okay, well, then you're putting pressure on your child. And once you see that child start acting out towards that other parent or towards you because they're angry at you for treating their other parent that way, when they get older, they do that. Okay? You need to be cognizant of that, aware that you are doing that, because it's going to come out in their behaviors. It's going to come out in their statements. It's going to come out in other places. It may not come out at home, but we definitely see it at school, and you'll definitely see it out there on the street with their friends and whoever else's house they go to. And that will be because you put your child in the middle of adult communication that they should not be in the middle of. That goes for if it's all adults in the house and your child is standing in the middle of y'all talking about somebody or fussing and cussing about somebody, or, all this crazy music going on and stuff like, you are once again putting your child in the middle of adult behavior and communication. They are not that. They are paying attention to everything that you do, everything that everybody else does, and everything that they say. And they will go and communicate it in other places. Believe me, I heard some stories about things over the last 2 decades, and I continue to, that I really don't care to hear about folks' homes and what they're doing. But children have to get it out. This is not a what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas moment. To get that emotional pressure off of them and that mental pressure off of them, they want to tell someone and get it out of their bodies. They have to, or else it's going to come out somewhere else. So, number two, thing you need to be concerned about with two different homes, using your child as the messenger between you and your co-parent. Do not do that. Okay? The last thing you need to be concerned about is when your standards or your co-parent's standards affect the child's well-being. Some rule differences are harmless, okay? They don't mean any harm if they're a little bit different. For example, let's just say my daughter's bedtime was 8:30, 9 o'clock. At her dad's house, it was 9 o'clock, 9:30. That's a little bit of a difference. That's kind of harmless. But some standards actually affect the child's health, their safety, and their stability. And that's what we're not going to do. Okay? Examples of that might be, and I always go to the school side because that's where I'm from, y'all. No homework expectations. Now, you know this child get homework every day almost, or every day. And you don't set an expectation on when they do the homework when they come to your house? Come on. Come on. Mm-mm. I have to say that's raggedy. That's not right. And you know it's not right. You know it's not right. No consistent sleep schedule. You telling me your child can go to sleep whenever? And I'm telling y'all right now, I know it happens because I hear it from my high school students that I'm teaching currently in a college course. Some of them don't go to bed till like 2 o'clock in the morning and they getting up at 6. Why? Why are you up at 2 o'clock in the morning? They got phones in the room, they got games in the room, they got all this stuff in the room to distract them from getting rest. Do y'all know rest is recovery? Do y'all know 2 days, I think it's 2 to 3 days of not getting at least sufficient sleep? You are walking around here like you drank a whole fifth or something. And some people out here driving and they don't have enough sleep. Y'all, that is dangerous. And students, kids cannot function going to school trying to listen to what they need to listen to for 6 to 7 classes a day, or even in elementary school, all day with the same teacher. And you expect them to focus when they haven't had enough rest? Get out of here. Come on. Come on. Y'all got to come on. Mm-mm. That is not safe. That affects their health. It does affect their health. That affects their stability and their safety. No homework expectations does too. There's no way you're passing middle and high school many times. You're going to have to take some classes over if you're not finishing the homework. I talk to my students about that now. If you have 6 or 7 classes that you're juggling, you're going to have to prioritize. You're going to have to calendar things. You're going to have to set up a structure for yourself. It's just like us as adults when we're working a job. That would definitely mess up your stability. You never keep a job if you don't get that together. Just lack of basic structure when they come to your house affects their health, their safety, and their stability, because you're going to have unsafe people supervising them, not watching them. They running around doing whatever they want to do or staying out. I had a fourth grader one time, y'all, that stayed out. Like the kids used to tell me that Dr. Johnson, he out at like midnight. Like, where's his parents? I don't know. Like, he out in the neighborhood. People, grown folks in the neighborhood know him. A fourth grader. Okay? Kids need, and we've talked about this, predictability to feel safe. So I'm not saying that the homes have to be identical. That's not going to happen. Okay? They should at least have foundational alignment, let's say that, around basic needs of your child or children. For example, one foundational alignment that my ex-husband and I had was we got to the point when she got old enough and went to school or whatever, we weren't trading back and forth clothes and shoes and all this little stuff she wanted to lug back and forth. No, you gotta go to school. We're not carrying all that. No. So he ended up having all of her things at his house. I ended up having all of her things at my house. If there were a couple of things that we had to buy two of because she needed one in each house, that's fine. Now, one thing she wasn't getting two of was two dogs, which at one point in time I tried to do the two dog. I tried to do a dog in my house. That wasn't working. Principal didn't work with the dog. So, I mean, foundational alignment around what they basically need. And the clothing and all of that was one of her basic needs. She had her own food over there, all that. Everything was separate. But some things she had were the same, but she had one at each house. Not going back and forth with all that stuff. That's crazy. Like that is stress on you and the co-parent. Just get it and leave it. Okay? Now, the truth that kids don't tell you guys, and my daughter talked a lot about this because they never want to say it out loud as they're going through it. But I talked about this too. Kids sometimes will play sides, like they'll play you on those rule differences. And if you do not have a united front, we talked about this in one of my episodes. Honestly, I don't blame them for playing the sides then. Because you all are setting it up to where you gonna get played. You have to have a united front on things. If you don't, they are going to play you in some way, shape, or form. That's just like, I think I told y'all about my daughter wanted to go to a party or something. And I think it was on the night that she was supposed to be with her dad. But then I had told her, I might have told you guys this, but I told her she couldn't go. And then she went and asked her dad when she went to her dad's house. So, I mean, and I had already talked to him and said, no, she's not going. That's not happening. Weather's bad, all that type of stuff. No, sir. She's not going. So if I had not talked to him, he might have made a different decision. That's just like one parent saying no video games on school nights, and at the other house, somebody saying play the game as long as you want because you don't want to have to deal with your child. Guess where they're going to push for more time? They're going to try to get it at the other parent's house too, and then push you a little bit more to see how far they can take it. Y'all don't know that kids play these games. They do it in school all the time with different teachers. But I mean, I'm just giving you guys some truth here because the deeper truth is kids don't actually want no structure. They want to be secure. Just like we as adults want to be secure. Think about a relationship. Somebody that you're dating. Do you want to just go fly by the pins willy-nilly with somebody that you are seriously into and want to date or possibly marry? I know I don't. We got to have some security and some structure to this thing. Like, what we doing here? And that security with your kids comes in knowing that the adults are in charge. The adults know what's going on. The adults communicate with each other. They are consistent about important things in their life. whether that is attending a basketball game, holding up at a track meet on a Saturday, like one parent gonna go here, one parent gonna go there, somebody showing up, grandparents, aunts and uncles. My whole family used to go to things because I could not go consistently to my daughter's things. And my ex-husband knew that. So when parents end up fighting about rules, kids start worrying about the relationship between the parents. They don't worry about the freaking rules. They worry about your relationship. Whether you think they do or not, they do. You don't know how many times I have talked to kids in two separate households or even in one household that's worried about their parents' relationship. Why? Because you take care of them. If you ain't around, they ain't got nobody. As much as they might not say that they want you around, as much as they may want to go to their room most of the time, they want you around. They wouldn't have anybody to take care of them. So what matters most here isn't identical rules, you guys. What matters most is respectful parenting alignment. And I put the word respectful in there because we need to work on that piece. We need to respect that even though the other household may not look exactly like ours, that parent is doing what they need to do to be aligned with us in some way, shape, or form. I'm gonna go back to this again. I didn't have the money that my ex-husband had. Okay. I was an educator. I still am. He's in tech and doing all other types of stuff. Like, so I didn't have the money that my ex-husband had, but you know what? On the foundational things that our daughter needed, he aligned with me on those things. Whatever else outside of that was whatever else was outside of that. If he bought her a game or he bought her a Wii or whatever for his, that ain't none of my dang on business because I don't want none of that mess in my house no way. Okay? That was not my priority. I was not a game player or nothing like that. So we weren't having that stuff in my house. She could play that when she go over there. We had board games. We had Scrabble. We had Monopoly. We had all the, things that I could turn into learning games for her. But she still likes them to this day. So when you begin to think about house rules for, let's just say you want some alignment in your house rules, I want you to think about 4 categories. I'm gonna give you a second in case you want to write these down or type them in your phone. 4 categories. The first one is non-negotiables. Non-negotiables. And I'm gonna go through them in just a second. The second one is house culture rules. What is going to be the culture in our home? How we're going to operate, basically. Courtesy rules. How are we going to treat each other well? And emotional safety rules. Y'all know I'm big on we just talked about emotional regulation. So emotional safety. All right. So let's talk about category number 1, non-negotiables. These are what both homes must align on. These are typically about safety, they're about health, or let's just say that your child's like core development. Okay? But when I say core development, I'm coming from the once again, the educator point of view, like school attendance. Get your baby to school. Okay? They got to go to school every day. I have seen it so many times where one parent, they come to school 2-3 times a week. The other parent, they there every day. I used to know which parent they were with based on their attendance for the week as a teacher and as a principal, because we looked at attendance every day. So school attendance is an example of a non-negotiable. Homework expectations, non-negotiable. Bedtime, non-negotiable. Wake up time, non-negotiable. Medical needs, non-negotiable. Okay. Those are some examples. So you need to write down what you guys must align on and what is non-negotiable. We don't negotiate on these. This is what it is. Okay. Now, wake up time may be a little bit different depending on the jobs that you guys have. So, but homework expectations and bedtime, those should be school attendance, medical needs. Yeah, non-negotiable. Also, you need to think about this tech stuff. Like, how much technology are they using and what are you putting on it to monitor what they're doing? There are too many apps out here to where parents they ain't paying their cell phone bill, you paying their cell phone bill. Put them safety apps on that phone and stop playing. It's too much stuff going on out here nowadays. People getting into social media and everything else with these kids and luring them into this craziness. You need to have a non-negotiable around if your child is going to have anything, an iPad, whatever, Twitch, whatever them little video games are, and then a cell phone, especially. Put the safety apps on there so you know what's going on. And another this is going to be the last one because I just thought about it. Respectful behavior towards adults should be a non-negotiable. I am not telling you to tell your child that every adult they need to be respectful to, because adults need to provide respect to them as well. So this is nuanced here, because I can already hear somebody say, well, they don't respect my respect is relative to the person. I think it's respectful when an adult says to you, good morning, or great risings, or grand risings, or whatever it is you want to say. When an adult greets you, you should greet them back. That's how I was taught. That was respectful to me. But when you have children who come into school or wherever and you say good morning to them and they just walk past and don't say nothing, to me, that's disrespectful. Now, to some parents, they think that's okay because the parents don't say good morning to nobody. So respectful behavior to adults needs to be a non-negotiable for you guys to discuss for your child or your children. And kids benefit when these basic things stay consistent between the two households. I don't care. If my daughter was disrespectful to me and I had a conversation with my ex-husband that I had to, do what I needed to do because she was disrespectful, he would say something to her as well. If she was disrespectful to him, had a little tone, whatever, want to clap back, whatever, I would say something to her when she got to me. I don't care how many days it was. It could have been the whole week. And then she get in the car with me, I'd be like, oh, I heard what happened with your dad. Like, what's up with that? So being respectful towards adults is just what it is. Kids have to understand that. And we have a problem with kids not understanding that. And once again, thinking that they are adults because y'all got them around this adult communication all the time. They're not adults. And when another adult that they don't know treats them like an adult, then parents get mad. But that's what they're acting like. and you've allowed them to act like. So we gotta get that together. We gotta get that together, and we gotta understand and own that we are the ones that set the tone for what our children do. That's 99.9% of the time. Yes, you're gonna have a 0.1% that go off and do whatever. Because I can already hear somebody saying, no, no, no. No. Look at how you have taught them certain things. Look at your behaviors, what you've had them around, all of that. It's a connection. Okay. Category number 2 is house culture rules. This is how each home operates, basically. What's the culture going to be? So when we talk about the culture, do they have chores? Do they have weekend bedtimes? Do they have cleaning expectations or screen limits, how long they can watch TV or how long they can play the game? They should, because they shouldn't be on that all night. Even I've had some parents say, well, at my house, they can't have these snacks because I don't buy them. Like at my house, I didn't buy all the ice cream and the cookies and all that type of stuff. But at her dad's house, he liked to snack like that. So, the snacks over there were different than the snacks that I had at my house. I had fruit and, things like that. Um, but even sometimes kids have to ask for snacks at one parent's house, whereas they can just go on and get whatever at the other parent's house, and they know, sometimes kids can't open up the refrigerator without asking first at one parent's house. And I mean, it is what it is. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not saying it's good. What I'm saying is, what are your rules as far as house culture? These can absolutely vary in both households. Like I did not, one big thing for me was we didn't leave any dishes in the sink at night. We're not doing that. I don't need no critters in the morning. Mm-mm. You rinse your dishes out. When you finish, you put them in the dishwasher. If we don't have a dishwasher, you wash them out and you put them in the dish holder. Okay? Another house may not have that. Like, I don't know what happened at her dad's house with dishes. I have no idea. And that's okay. That's not my business. Not my business. But kids can learn different expectations in different environments. You just have to tell them what it is instead of them trying to figure it out all the time. And as long as you're consistent in that, they will know the next time they come back what they can do and what they can't do. All right. So the courtesy rules, these are about respecting the other parent's system. Respect the other parent's system. That means we don't need to comment on what's happening. We don't need to ask questions about what happens at the other house. We don't need to comment about what happens at the other house. If we have questions or we have comments, we ask the other parent. So one example of this could be returning items that belong at the other house. This is why my ex-husband and I, she had everything at the same, everything at both houses. I wasn't doing all that. I was not sitting up here taking stuff and returning stuff and no, that's too much for my brain to try to remember. Okay. Making sure that homework travels between the homes. When she was younger, we had to check backpacks every day. And our schedule of being with one parent the whole school week was what worked for us, because you had consistency in who was checking the homework every day, and we weren't switching out midweek and all that stuff. Anybody who is switching out visitation midweek like your child may go 2 days with one parent and 3 days with another, you are making that harder on yourself. If you don't have to do that, I would suggest you have the child with one parent the whole school week if they're in school. Okay? Because the consistency of that is so much better for them. Okay? Another thing as far as courtesy is communicating schedule changes. And we talked about this before in one of my episodes. So the schedule changes, you need to let the other parent know in a good amount of time, typically at least 48 hours, that a schedule needs to change unless it's an emergency. Or you guys agree on what the time boundaries are going to be for that. Maybe it needs to be a week. Maybe it needs to be three or 4 days. I don't know. But I would let my ex-husband know at least 48 hours. Most of the time, the minute that I knew this schedule needed to change, I was shooting a text to him or a phone call or something to say, hey, will this work for you? Because my schedule needs to change. How can we work this out? Or I just say, just FYI, my schedule just changed to this. I know it's my week, but I really need Ash to be with you. Like, are you able to do that? Let's talk later. Though it gives them time to think and figure it out if they can. So these are rules that just keep co-parenting functioning smoothly. The courtesy rules. I know it's hard for some of us to be courteous to our co-parents, but once again, it's not about you. These types of rules help to keep that emotional weight off of your child because they know that you're talking, they know that you're consistent with what it is that they need, they know you're going to be there. Once again, not about you, not about you. So let's go to number 4, emotional safety. And we talked so much about this in the emotional regulation episodes. I'm not going to beat a dead horse. But these are usually the most important rules that are the most overlooked. And this is why I've actually beat a dead horse about this, because we got to get it together. This puts the emotional heaviness onto your child, and your child worries about your relationship. Then they worry about, am I going to have somewhere to live, and who I'm going to go live with if something go wrong, and all this type of stuff. Okay. So examples of this would be to not badmouth the other parent. We talked about that. We're not badmouthing. You're not forcing your child to choose sides. Remember, there is no good parent and bad parent. That's not the way we should be looking at it. There is no the other parent taking your child away from you because they give them ice cream before they go to bed and you don't. Okay, no, stop that. You're self-sabotaging in your head. Do not force kids to choose sides about anything. And there's no interrogation or, questions about the other home. Kids deserve the emotional safety in both spaces that they need. Let me say that again. Kids deserve the emotional safety in both spaces that they need. When both homes do this, kids thrive. They do what they're supposed to do. So many co-parents argue, and I hear all the time, about every little freaking thing. Every rule. Because why? We just want to be combative. We do. We just want to be combative. But here's the truth. You don't need to agree on everything either. That's okay. You need to agree on what matters most for your child. So in those conversations, we've talked about this before too. I know I'm saying a lot, but in my episodes, I have talked about all of these things. In our conversations, you should be talking about educational expenses. I told y'all about my ex-husband and I. Health, medical decisions, especially discipline approaches. Like how are you going to discipline your child? Some people believe in physical discipline. Some people believe that's not right. We shouldn't be doing that. We should just be talking to them and we take away things. Like, what are your discipline approaches going to be? Once again, we're gonna go back to get this technology safety together. It's too many kids roaming around here with phones and iPads and all this crap, and there's no safety measures put in place for them navigating all this stuff. And you need to talk about emotional boundaries between you as the co-parents and between you all and your child or your children. You really need to talk about it between you and your co-parent because we talked about emotional regulation. That is a huge thing. You're never going to get anything solved. You're never going to have an effective conversation about your child if you don't get those boundaries in place. And I want you to notice something. I want you to notice that none of these conversations are about which house has the later bedtime, or whether the shoes stay here or there, or who eats dessert first before dinner and who doesn't. Okay? The emotional stuff has nothing to do with, that's kind of going back to the house culture decisions. That's not emotional. So co-parenting communication should stay focused on the child's long-term well-being. Where'd you guys hear that before? Where'd you guys hear that before? Okay. So one thing that I've heard so much about y'all is parents wanting the other co-parent to be consistent. Just consistent. Like maybe just picking up on time, or they're unresponsive to certain things, or they intentionally do the opposite. Like people think that the other parent is trying to, sabotage things. So this is what I tell y'all to do all the time. Control your house and control you. That's all we can do. You cannot control another human being. Your home can still be stable. Your home can still be structured. Your home can still be emotionally safe for your child. If you just control your house and you control you. You can't worry about the other co-parent. At some point, you have to disconnect from what they are doing and focus on what you can do in your four walls. It's like me as a school principal, as a teacher. As a teacher, I can only control what was going on in the four walls of my classroom. As a school principal, I could only control what was going on in the walls of my school. I couldn't control what was going on in the neighborhood. We have a lockdown or whatever, okay? I couldn't control that. So I had to make sure that I controlled what was going on in my home as well and controlled me. That was it. The second thing you can do as far as like consistency is don't compete. Like there is no competition for being the fun parent or the best parent or the good parent. That type of competition stuff in people's minds, because I've seen people try to buy kids too. I'm gonna do all this for the prom, or I'm gonna send them and we're gonna have a blast and have a party and this and that. And you don't involve the other co-parents in it because you want to do it all yourself. You want to be that parent. That type of competition hurts the kids. It may not hurt you, or you may think that you're hurting the other co-parent, which most of the time the other co-parents sit back like, okay, you can take it, spend all that money. Like, who cares? Most of the time, y'all, the other co-parent does not care. If you want to be the fun parent, they don't care how much money you spend it or what you do. It's whatever. Go ahead and try it. Like, but can the kids at least have one emotionally regulated parent? That's all I'm asking. Can we? That type of competition between parents just is nonsense. It's nonsense. There's no winner in that situation, especially not your child is not winning. All they doing is playing you. You getting played. That is exactly what you're doing. You're getting played. Okay? So the third thing you can do with the consistency too is you can stay neutral when the kids compare your homes because they will. Especially in situations where you may have a step parent or something like that, then they really gonna turn up the heat. Okay? They're gonna turn up the heat because they may not be happy about it or whatever. So then they're gonna start comparing the homes. And I don't know that my daughter ever compared the homes because most of the time it was just me until I got remarried. But her dad has been remarried for a good portion of her life. I think he got remarried when she was 9. She's 23. But she never really compared the homes in a way that she said, well, mom lets me do this or dad lets me do this. She compared our homes in the feeling like that she got from each home. Like, or the activities. She did compare the activities that we did because my family would do family vacations in lieu of Christmas gifts. Like we started doing family vacations as a family rather than doing Christmas gifts and all that type of stuff. We would travel. We would travel with the kids. So she traveled a lot more with me than she did with her dad. That's one big thing that she would compare for the most part. But she didn't say things like, well, dad, lets me stay up all night and all this type of stuff. But even if that were to be the case, y'all, I mean, you can still respond calmly to that and be like, well, different homes have different rules. I used to have to say that to parents about schools. They would come to the school and be like, well, oh, we didn't have to do this over at that school. Different school, different rules. Like I have a different demographic. I have different things going on in the school. Hey, it's just like any environment that you go to. Gotta learn the code switch, like different code in different places. So just like school, it's different homes have different rules. And you can tell them in this house, this is what we do. Like we don't stay up all night. We go to bed at 8:30 or 9 because we need our rest. Our body and our brain need to recover. And we need all of our rest so we can do what we need to do the next day. So you don't need to criticize. You don't need to say, well, whatever, like that's your daddy house. Da, 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 da. No, we don't need all the rah-rah stuff. Okay. You can just calmly say, instead of reacting emotionally, different homes have different rules. In this house, we go to bed at this time because, and that's it to the conversation. There is no more conversation. There is no negotiation. And there is no criticism about the other house. Okay? There's no comparison, nothing like that. You know what that is? That's you leading your house. That's just leadership. Just like I had to lead the school. And what y'all need to realize is in practicing it, you playing for the long game here. Your child is with you for the rest of their life. My child is 23 and we are still navigating, helping her on certain things, going to graduate school, all this type of stuff. We playing the long game here. But kids do eventually realize, and it doesn't take them long, and they recognize which environments help them feel stable and supported. And that consistency that you start giving them builds their trust in you over time. So when something bad happens or when something really is going down, because they trust you, they're going to come and tell you why. Because I know mom will help me work through this, or dad will help me think through this, or something like that. Both of you all serve your own purpose. My daughter comes to her dad about certain things when she needs to work through something. She comes to me about certain things when she needs to work through something. Because why? She has learned over the years that we both have our own strengths. And you know what else she's learned over the years is that we're going to be there for her as much as we possibly can. If it's something financial and we can do it, we're going to do it. If we can't, we're going to say, babe, we need you to work that out. Like, I can help you with X, Y, and Z, but I can't help you here. I had to tell her that the other day because I got my own stuff. I'm moving out of the country. Like, I can't, it's certain things I can't help on right now because I'm moving as well. But she will still come and ask. She will still see what my thoughts are, all of that. But this all goes into the fact that we helped her adjust between two homes, two different environments, all of that throughout her formative years. And sometimes it was hard. It was hard. But there's some things that you can do to help them, transition between homes and things like that. And what I'm going to do is in the next episode, I'm going to talk about those transitions that you can actually help them, kind of like get through. For example, if there's some parents who drop kids off at a certain location and you transition with them, and then they always have a bad time when they know they're getting ready to go to the other parent's house or something like that. They get nervous. In the next episode, we're going to talk about those transitions because transitions will happen throughout their life. I got laid off, and I told you guys this 6 times within 9 years in my career. I've had 7 or 8 layoffs now total in my career. That's a lot of transition that my daughter saw me go through. And a lot of those transitions she went through with me. Okay? Because we had to move homes or downsize in a car and all this type of stuff. So I want to make sure that I get that next episode on transitions for you guys. And this is going to be the beginning of a series that I want to call Building Effective Parenting Systems. Okay. So I want you guys to make sure that if you need to, go back and look at this episode because this is going to be the first one and let's say not effective, let's say healthy. So, building healthy parenting systems. This is going to be my series. All right. So, our first episode in the series, not that I've thought about it, was about the co-parenting success in not identical homes, basically. Okay. So when two homes basically becomes two sets of standards for our children. And this is the foundational episode in this series. So I'm probably going to do maybe about 6 different episodes on this topic, and they're going to be different subtopics. So this one was, I'm going to say it again, when two homes become two different standards, basically have two different standards. So if you take one thing away from today's episode, what I want you to do is I want you to let it be this. Co-parenting success is not about identical homes. It is not about doing everything the same as your co-parent is doing in their homes. It is about emotional responsibility in parenting. So two homes can absolutely work if the parents do the work to make it work. Two homes can absolutely be healthy if the two parents are healthy. Two homes can absolutely raise thriving kids, but it requires the parents to prioritize the stability, the respect, and the need for the child's emotional experience to be positive. That means you got to put away your ego. You got to put away the control issues that you have. You got to put away this competition of I'm going to buy this or do this, and then they daddy or they mama not going to be able to. Because at the end of the day, kids they don't need perfect parents. They don't need the fun parent all the time. They don't need the good parent all the time. You know what they need? They need mature parents. That's what they need. They need mature parents. So, what I want to say to you guys is thank you for spending time with me today. I know the episode started off with me doing a woosah. Yes, today and this week has been some. But you know what? It ended. So, we're about to go into the weekend, y'all. If this episode resonated with you in any way, please share it with another co-parent who might need to hear it. I want to try to get my subscribers up on the channel. And if you're raising kids across two homes right now, I want you to remember something, okay? As I said at the beginning of this episode, you are not alone. You're not alone. It's a lot of people out here doing this, and it is absolutely possible to build something healthy for your kids in two separate homes. People are trying to do it in one. They struggle too, y'all. Okay? So until next time, I want you to take care of yourselves. Please take care of your kids or kid and keep co-parenting with a purpose. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.